We're off to Manchester Airport to meet the team behind Airliners Live, one of the UK's most popular airport livestream shows. Airliners Live have been streaming from Manchester Airport's Runway Visitor Park since 2017 and have worked hard to evolve their shows ever since. These guys really are going from strength to strength and recently passed 1 million subscribers on YouTube.
Yes! 1 million! Yeah, let's go!
We caught up with one of the team, Andy, to find out more.
Hello, I'm Andy and I'm from Airliners Live, and this is the Runway Visitor Park. Behind me is the flagship Concorde, BOAC. She is one of many static aircrafts here on the ground at the RVP. We live stream here 3 times a week at Manchester Airport here from the Runway Visitor Park, usually from the control tower that they call, also known as the commentary tower, where they provide weekend commentary to the park as well. So we've been live streaming here for about 6 years now. Of course, we had a bit of a break during the pandemic in 2020, but then we came back, and ever since then, the channel's grown exponentially. And in the winter of 2021, myself and my business partner Martin both packed in our full-time jobs to go full-time on Airliners Live. One of the best things about the Runway Visitor Park is the community here. The people are amazing, they're so friendly, and also all just different walks of life that all come together under the love of aviation. So you get people, families with their kids, and they're getting really inspired by the aviation that they see and the big and the small planes. They're learning a lot from the commentary, and a lot of them are coming to meet the community as well. A lot of them find us through Airliners Live. They find the park through Airliners Live as well. And whether they're young, old, into aviation, pilots, spotters, all come together, and it's a really nice community here as well. And everyone can meet in this awesome place, which is, in my opinion, one of the best places to spot aircraft.
Not only do these guys provide a great show, they're also big fans of Flight Radar 24. They use our app to provide their viewers with extra information on the arriving and departing aircraft that they show on their stream. More on that later. Now, it wouldn't be an AvGeek weekender without logging some flight time, so I'm flying to Manchester today on board British Airways Flight 1386. This is one of 5 daily shuttle flights from London to Manchester operated by BA. The shuttle service was launched in 1975 as Europe's first ever walk-on, guaranteed seat flight service. Today, these shuttles are booked in the same way as the regular flights and operate from London to destinations like Manchester, Edinburgh, Glasgow and Inverness. Today we're flying Golf Tango Tango November Sierra, an Airbus A320neo that was built in September 2022. It's a short flight today, just 40 minutes in the air, and due to the short duration of the flight, we'll actually only be cruising at around flight level 180, or 18,000 feet. This means that we're going to spend all of the trip in the turbulence layer, and it does feel that way. Luckily, there is just enough time for the crew to work at lightning fast speed, giving out the free pretzels and bottle of water that you expect on BA Economy. Manchester's Runway Visitor Park, or RVP, really does attract a lot of visitors of all ages. As well as being a great place to spot the arriving and departing aircraft, the park also features a number of static exhibits, the most impressive of which is probably Golf Bravo Oscar Alpha Charlie, a British Airways Concorde. The Airliners Live team operate from a caravan located right next to Taxiway Alpha, the main route that aircraft take to and from runways 05 left and 23 right. Runway 23 right is in use today, but Taxiway Alpha is undergoing some maintenance, so the aircraft will be backtracking along the runway before departing. That said, we should still get a pretty great view. So let's get inside and meet Andy and the team.
Our guest with us today is Chris from Flight Radar 24. How are you doing, Chris?
Very well. Great to be here.
Yeah.
Amazing to see it from the other side. It's a bit strange.
Yes,
but it's such a great view you guys have, so it's really nice to see that.
So I was just mentioning to you off stream there that there's actually a lot of work going on the taxiway. It's all kind of essential taxi work, and usually on this taxiway here, the planes, they taxi right past us here at the RVP. So you said you've been here before, have you?
Yeah, once a couple of years ago. But yeah, I remember that position right there. You get that kind of classic wave sort of. It's like, I figure that's about 30% of the crews kind of give you a wave. It's kind of one in three.
That's more predominantly the KLM,
Jet 2, EasyJet usually. Yeah. Certain airlines who will always go above and beyond, and
correct.
sometimes they'll get the window open as well and give it a wave.
Love that. Well, on behalf of, if we have any influence in the world of aviation as Flight Radar 24, I'd like to put a message out to every flight crew for every airline that has never waved when they've arrived into Manchester. Please wave, because it really improves everybody's life. It's
Now, Flight Radar 24. I mean, that's what you're a part of these days. How long have you been at Flight Radar 24?
So I've been in the business for about just over a year.
Wow. Okay.
The company is actually based in Stockholm. That's where our office is. But we're fortunate to have a very international kind of team. We're a small team. We're based mostly across Europe, but we've also got some people based in the US. I'm based in London. Been there for about a year, and my job is essentially to create any kind of online content which we think people will find interesting, and hopefully that's what we achieve. A great example would be so we have the Flight Radar 24 blog, which we're putting a lot more effort into in terms of turning around lots more kind of content, sharing about interesting stuff that's happening. We look at kind of the wealth of flight data we collect as well, which there is a huge amount of. You know, we're receiving that data essentially every few seconds from pretty much every commercial aircraft in the world. And flight data essentially tells a story. You know, what airplanes are doing around the world kind of reflects what society is doing around the world. So there's a reason why there's a big hole of, no traffic over certain parts of the world, because there's a political situation. So it tells a wider story. And it's honestly, it's such a great sort of business to be a part of, growing really fast. We're making great connections with guys like you, really just trying to engage with the people that use the app, and we have such great feedback about it. It's so good to work for such positive.
It's a great app. I mean, we've used it for many years. Everything from the filters to the UI is so smooth.
What always surprises me is how many people are aware of Flight Radar 24 who are not necessarily interested in aviation, or at least not ostensibly interested in aviation. When I just if I get in a chat with someone at a pub and say what I do for a living, they're like, I know that app. Because we have that kind of exposure in the media when there's a big storm, or when there's some sort of political situation which affects air traffic. We talk to the news guys quite a lot. So we have that kind of exposure, and the big takeaway for me is just the sheer positivity. And my favourite thing is to when I fly commercially, to say hello to the crew, give them some freebies, which I'll come on to soon, and just have a bit of a chat about how they use the app, what they want to see change, and we just get such positive feedback from them. And I think for me, that's the most important thing.
It's tough to find things that you'd want to change about that app, because it just does exactly what it wanted to. You can,
it really does,
when you combine it with the filters, like I said, and just the extensive amount of data that's on there, not just like live data, but you have a lot of like stored data about history and flight numbers and just registrations, liveries, which we like to use, the special livery remarks and stuff, like, all just so useful as a plane spotter, but then also as just a general aviation traveler as well. Anyone.
Absolutely.
Did you remember that there's a chap who watches our live streams and in VR, and he has like a display where you can see our stream, but he also has Flight Radar open, and he's like interacting that in a VR head, virtual reality space as well.
I hate to say, I don't remember this, but I absolutely need to look at that, because that's a perfect example of how we just love seeing the app in action.
Yes, exactly.
In that kind of way.
That's definitely the future of Flight Radar 24, by the way, and flight streaming. That's definitely the future.
Absolutely. VR, absolutely. And the 3D view feature in... it's a fairly recent feature in the grand scheme of things anyway, but we have a photography partner called Jet Photos. It's a website. It's a huge... in fact, I think it has I can't remember the exact number. I'll check into it in a little while, but we recently passed a really significant photo milestone for that. It's the largest aviation photo site in the world.
Wow.
And it's a huge network of professional photographers around the world. And essentially, whenever a photograph of an aircraft is uploaded, it's logged by registration, and it's screened by a human most of the time as well, which again is one of the reasons why we have such a high photo quality on there. And those photos push through to Flight Radar 24 under the reg of the aircraft, normally within sort of 2 to 3 weeks, which is why you tend to get a very up-to-date image. And that's why we're always keen to encourage everyone to submit their photos to jet photos. Even if the quality isn't amazing, let us have a look at that, because we love to see them. And the kind of crowdsourced nature of that is crowdsourcing really is a very big part of Flight Radar 24, which I'm sure we can talk about. But that's a really powerful way for us to just give you that really up-to-date experience, and that's why the liveries tend to be pretty accurate.
How do you even start collecting that data? Like, where does it come from?
So Flight Radar 24 is powered by, well, it's actually the world's largest network of independent ADS-B receivers. So ADS-B data is published by pretty much every commercial aircraft in the world. So it depends on the phase of flight, but it can be anywhere between every 1 to 2 seconds to every 6 seconds the aircraft broadcasts data, depending on whether it's in the takeoff phase, whether it's on the ground, whether it's in the cruise, depending on where it is. And that data is publicly available. And really, the origins of Flight Radar 24 are in 2 guys in Sweden who one day said, is there any way we can see that and interpret that into sort of into a picture and follow an aeroplane? It really stems from that. So the way it works is we have on our website, we have a page where you can apply to host one of these receivers. We send them out for free. They're complimentary. And we look at the application. We take into account a lot of factors. So the distance it is from an airport, the height it's at, whether it's obscured, what the terrain is like nearby. It's not just a case of, are you near an airport? And we have a look at the coverage we've already got, and we figure out whether that would add value to you guys, and it's the people who use the app and use the website.
People in the chat. I've seen a couple of people in the chat actually saying that they've got their receivers set up as well, which is awesome.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for that, because you guys really, you enable us to do what we do. And we are very grateful for that. Thank you. It's great.
So on the taxi out at Manchester Airport, currently we have a couple of aircraft. There's a 757 on the way out. Alpha Juliet. It's one of the 75s I've been on, actually. That's heading out to Alicante with Jet2, and that's followed by an air tanker lease to Jet2, an A330-200, heading off to Tenerife South. Now, have you ever flown on any of the 757s in your time? Are you fortunate enough?
I am fortunate enough, but we're going a long way back. The first flight I ever took, I think, was when I was about 4 years old. And that was on a 757. That was a Monarch 757 to somewhere in Spain. I can't remember where. And I think I flew on a TUI, at the time it was Thomson, 75 to, I think, Dalaman in what must have been about 2006. So it's been a while, and I'm kind of scared that I might miss the opportunity to get on one again, so very keen to do so.
Well, I think Suze in the chat was asking, how old is Chris?
Yes. I'm 33.
Is the right answer?
You're 33,
I'm 33, yeah.
I mean, you seem...
Only a pup.
Only a pup, yeah, exactly.
I wish I felt like one.
I'm trying being 43, mate.
I know, but you've had a lot of different career aspects, like you said, pilot, you're doing private jets, and now you work at Flight Radar 24. Like you've seen a lot, you've done a lot. It sounds like you've done a lot of traveling as well.
Seen some things, man. So I've been in some great businesses, but this is by far, and I don't just say this because I'm here on their behalf. But this is by far the most interesting and just. It's very cliche, the most dynamic sort of organisation I've worked for. It's a small-ish business that just touches so many people's lives, and there's something quite special about that.
There's probably not many sort of businesses that have that scale versus a small team versus how many people actually use the app. It's crazy. And then, like you said, because you've got so much data that's been, crowdsourced, it means that you've got so much information as well that just for a small team is remarkable. There's
about, I think, 50 or 60 of us in total. It's not a huge business by any. But for me that's a positive side, because everyone knows everybody. We all know each other very well. We all get on really well, and you can get things done.
I did see a question though earlier. I forget who asked it. Might have been asked a few times actually. Have you got a favourite livery on a plane?
Okay, so the first thing that springs to mind is not a present livery, so I'd say BA Lander on a 777.
On a triple as well.
So an old 777, a short 777 with a Lander. There was something quite special about that, and I think it goes back to growing up outside the airport. Pretty much around the time the 777 started to become a lot more prolific. The Heathrow Visitor Centre that I mentioned that used to exist, they had a kind of a mock-up of a 777 flight deck in there, and it was like, this is the aircraft of the future. Which again ages me perfectly. That was pretty special.
Question from Danny Taylor, one of our VIPs, asking, is there any future updates you can shed light about on Flight Radar 24?
I absolutely can shed some light on future updates to Flight Radar 24. So
nice.
We actually have first of all, we update the app very regularly with, small incremental updates, which will be updated by your phone, or obviously pushed to the web straight away, much like every other app does. We have a few new features that which should be dropping next week.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'm just going to check my notes here to make sure I don't miss anything.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's have a quick look.
And yeah, Joanna, if you want to do a vlog on the A350 Virgin, I would love to see that.
Oh, yes.
Virgin cabins, there's something about them that is very, elegant and nice.
It's very plush, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And on a 350, that'd be nice.
So, next week, looking first of all at the web, there's going to be updates to the web and to the mobile apps on iOS and Android. So the first thing you'll notice is that there's a bit of a change to the look and feel. So we've redesigned the airport pins, which sounds like a very minor thing, but I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you try and tap on an airport on Flight Radar 24, you often end up tapping on an aircraft instead.
Correct, yeah.
And we are aware of that. And it's because, frankly, most people are looking to track aircraft and tend to go into the airport data through a different way.
Yeah.
We've redesigned the airport pins so they're going to be quite a lot bigger. And they're going to the kind of info box that pops up will have a little bit more information on it than it would have had before. So it's going to be easier to tap on that.
Nice.
On that. The aircraft icons have changed ever so slightly, again, just to kind of improve the overall balance and the look and feel of the app, and it's all about usability. Aircraft flags. So when you tap on an aircraft, you get the info box that comes up. We also have the option to have a kind of permanent info box next to the aircraft, so you can have an airline logo there now. You can have sort of certain amounts of flight data, so you can get that kind of top-line information without actually tapping on the aircraft itself. We've redesigned that so there'll be more information in there. It's easier to see. It will be a bit less obtrusive to the whole experience. And we've also added a huge number of airline logos, updated airline logos, which again have been reskinned slightly so that they can be seen and don't busy the screen up quite so much. So that's the kind of the big visual changes. There's a few other things. So I think the biggest thing you're going to notice is two things. First of all, we're bringing the filters we have on the web to the mobile app. We already have them in place in some way, but we now will have all of the same filtering options on mobile. That's on iOS and Android. And again, filters are a huge thing for us. We really appreciate how useful people find those filters, and it's a big development focus for us, over the coming months and years. And we're looking at ways to sort of integrate and make those filters a lot more complex so that we can start filtering by action and stuff like that. But the next change there is just having those filters in full in the mobile app. And finally, we're going to bring what we call activity tracking. So essentially, you're going to be able to track flight in real time from your mobile home screen. So you don't have to have Flight Radar 24 open. You can just select the aircraft on Flight Radar 24, go into a different app or go back to your home screen, and you can have that kind of that sticky update on your lock screen.
Nice.
Similarly, if you have an iPhone 14, I think it's a 14 or 14 Pro or beyond, so you have the dynamic island at the top of the phone, it's compatible with that as well. So you can see your flight data in there. And we think that that's particularly useful if you're tracking a family member, or if you're waiting for someone to pick someone up at the airport, that kind of thing. And a huge number of people use Flight Radar 24 to get to the airport and pick their families up. So that's important.
That's
for us.
great.
That's great.
Yeah.
KLM 73, departing back to Schiphol.
Yeah, I don't know why I had to click on that on radar just to see where it was going.
Yeah.
Where could it be going? Yeah, one of the oldest routes here at Manchester. Maybe the oldest route.
Yeah,
that
the first flight
flies.
out of Manchester was from
Schiphol. Crazy, isn't it? Yeah, they originally weren't going to fly to Manchester Airport. They were going to fly to Barton Aerodrome, which is another airport here at Manchester. But I don't think they could make it work, could they, logistically, just because the grass runways there. Back then, they had very different aircraft, of course. This was almost 100 years ago we're talking now. But, they operate lots of flights here at Manchester Airport.
Great suspension on the 737, the grass runway, no problem.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about the Concorde at London Heathrow. I forgot about that one.
Of course, yeah.
Bit sad about that one, isn't it? It's just left there, but...
It kind of, I mean, when you go past it, it sort of does the opposite of what I think it's meant to do. It's sort of, it looks a bit sad, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Just left out there. But the thing about the one here at Manchester, it never originally was in a hangar. They placed it there and then built the hangar around it.
Wow.
And I think putting it indoors is a wise move. As a result, it's very, very clean and very protected.
Yeah, it makes a massive difference.
Chris, how does Flight Radar deal with out-of-range aircraft such as transatlantic ops?
So first of all, transatlantic and stuff in the middle of the ocean tends to be tracked by satellite or GPS. That's mostly how we pick up any kind of coverage that we can't get with ADS-B. And you'll see that on the website and on the mobile apps. You'll see that with the aircraft is blue, that's tracked by satellite. When it's yellow, it's tracked by ADS-B.
Right.
We can also infer an aircraft's position using something called multilateration, or MLAT. And that's basically using a kind of, the simplest way to explain it is like a triangulated signal where we can infer the route that something probably is. So in areas where we've got slightly less coverage, you'll see that kind of dotted line. And sometimes when the aircraft gets into an area of better coverage, the track will correct itself. I mean, one of the real issues that we're facing in the world of flight tracking right now is GPS interference. That's both jamming and spoofing.
Okay.
And we're seeing this in a big way in certain parts of the world. I mean, understandably, we see it in Ukraine, we see it kind of over the Black Sea. We see it in certain parts of Africa, again, depending on what's happening politically.
Yep.
We have a real issue with it in Russia as well. And what that means is that individuals with nefarious intentions basically can make it look like the aircraft is somewhere it is not.
Yeah.
And we have some great... we have a great strategy in place, which I won't talk about, but we have some ideas that can deal with that.
Yep.
And over the coming months, we're going to be talking more about that, because we're keen to be open about it and, what causes it, how we're going to deal with it. It's not a widespread problem, but we do have it in particular parts of the world. But typically, when an aircraft goes out of range, we can sort of triangulate that course, and it will correct itself when it gets into an area of much better coverage.
Chris in the chat asking, how do you keep track of Santa? Does he have a transponder? Is that MLAT? Is that satellite? I don't know.
Yeah, it's again, let's see. It would be ADS-B over land,
yes.
And it would be satellite over the sea, over the ocean. Funnily enough, I was looking at the Santa tracker, the Christmas just gone, and
yeah.
I think I opened it up once during the night, and the moment I opened it, he was over Christmas Island. I was like, no, surely not. I took a screenshot of it straight away. I was like, oh, that's perfect. I think I tweeted it as well.
Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
It's funny when them things happen, isn't it? Jet 2, A321neo, G-Sun Charlie on the reg. Yeah, they've made a big order of these Neos. Jet 2 have. And like I said, it's going to be a seismic shift for their fleet. I know Paul was actually flying out on one of the 321 Neos, wasn't he? On down to...
Correct, down to
Lanzarote, yeah. They look really smart. I love the lighting that they've gone with, the more modern airliners. That's something that is quite striking. The thing about Jet 2 is they've just kept the same seats and stuff, though. So for most people, I don't think you'd notice the difference, but you do have that nice lighting, a bit more spacious, a bit more airy, a bit more smooth of a ride, quieter as well. Is one of the things. Even on like the Maxes and stuff, like me and Matt were flying on a Ryanair 737 Max. What was last year? Was it?
Correct. Yeah.
It's crazy how quiet they are.
Yeah.
Like we were just walking around the flight, around the the cabin, to the toilets or whatever, and it's just there's no engine sound. It's
No.
like where's the engine sound?
That was one of the first flights I've got up, and you don't have that din ringing in your ears and stuff like that.
That's it.
It's weird.
Yeah, I think it's I think was it like 15% quieter or something like that. I can't remember what the statistic is, but. So if you look at, say, a BA cabin, and you're in, Club Europe, I think the big selling point of that is the empty middle seat in the row of three. So I think that's the kind of key thing. Plus, of course, the complimentary bar, the food. I actually flew with BA back from Stockholm last year in Club Europe, specifically because they'd just brought out their Christmas dinner. I really wanted to try it, and it was excellent, by the way. So well done, BA. Great Christmas dinner.
Nice. Pigs in blankets there, were
there was. I think there was a pig in blanket. Yes.
Get in.
A pig in blanket.
Yeah.
One.
Get in there.
Singapore Airlines A350. I think she's heading off to Singapore, the longest flight out of Manchester Airport. Takes about 13, 14 hours to get over to Singapore from here on.
13 and a half, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah. They also do another route to Houston as well. So they do Singapore to Houston, but they stop at Manchester as a little refuel stopgap in between. But it's surprising how many people fly from Singapore to Houston. It's when I flew on that flight, because we like to go to Texas, it was just mostly people flying from Singapore. It's like, wow,
interesting.
To fly a 14-hour flight, get off for a few hours, get back on for another 10-hour flight.
But what a great place to get off.
Yes,
It's a shame they can't nip into the RVP.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Do airport control centres around the world use Flight Radar 24? That's probably not something you'd know the answer to, I guess, because it's But I'm assuming they have their own systems as well.
So there are none that I know of that would use it in an official capacity, of course, because they're using the pro system, which keeps everyone safe. But I'm aware of a lot of aviation professionals using it on a personal level to supplement what they do. So I think I mentioned earlier, a lot of pilots tell us they use it as just an extra tool for situational awareness. How long is my taxi going to be? Which runway is probably going to be in use in 4 hours' time when I get to the US, or whatever that may be. So one side of it we do know we proliferate is airlines. So a lot of airlines or operators of commercial aircraft, use Flight Radar 24 to keep an eye on their fleet. Additionally, a lot of flight trackers that are built into airline mobile apps. For example, EasyJet used basically a sort of an API style input. So they basically use the Flight Radar 24 interface, and they kind of skin that into their own apps. So there's a lot of use. And so remind me, you guys are Wednesday and Sunday?
Yes,
correct.
Yes, on
and
Friday
then
as well.
on Friday.
Yes.
And this is the flagship show, you said, the Sunday.
Yes.
So I'm here for the flagship show.
You're the main man on the main show.
We usually get guests on the midweek. Matt often has guests on. You've got Arik, haven't you, on?
Yeah, I've got one of our fellow Manchester streamers coming on the end of March as well. So.
Yeah, because there's a few people who stream Manchester Airport these days. They've all come up in the last few years. Because we're dinosaurs now. We've been around for 6 years now doing this. I know. But so it's always nice to have new guests on. But we don't usually have guests on the Sunday. But I think with it being a nice special guest, I think it was nice to get you on.
You're too kind. Thank you. Again, I say it over and over again, but that's one of the great things about the people who use Flight Radar 24, and particularly those who engage with us online. That it's such a positive audience, and I think it's because this industry and the interest in it just generates so much positivity. Chester Mike just actually posted a link to that exact blog post about the 7 delivering the goods again. Thank you.
And I've noticed you've got a category called Just for Fun. I like that.
BA's shuttle services today are typically operated by the Airbus A320, A320neo, A321 or A321neo. However, it wasn't always that way. The aircraft behind me is a Hawker Siddeley Trident, and this is actually the type of aircraft that BA first used when they inaugurated those shuttle services. Eventually, they were replaced by the Boeing 757, and nowadays it's typically an Airbus, A319, A320, maybe an A320neo. And what's interesting about this aircraft in particular, the Trident 3, is that at the time it was the only serving commercial aircraft with 5 engines. Let's take a better look around the fantastic Runway Visitor Park. The park has pretty much everything you need for a good day out. In addition to a very good cafe with a very familiar website on the TV, the park is home to a variety of retired planes, including a DC-10, Avro RJX and the Trident that we saw earlier. The star of the show is, of course, Concorde, which lives inside a hangar and is available for tours. Next to Concorde, you'll find a pretty expansive gift shop, and the park even features a 360-degree flight simulator, which, as it turns out, I was not very good at flying. Airliners Live clearly have one of the most engaging and professionally run live streams from any airport in the UK. But what can make it even better?
Matt Cam Smith over on the apron can literally see the whole apron, bringing us all the pushbacks, all the information. And then, brand new to us on the channel, we've now got a 6th input to the channel, courtesy of a true aviation icon, Flight Radar 24.
Wow.
Integrating in with the Airliners live stream here on your Super Sunday show and the midweek Wednesday shows as well. So we're going to be able to make full use of this application. Let's get some 10 out of 10s in the chat for Flight Radar 24. We've had a couple of meetings with the guys. Chris has been absolutely awesome since he's been on the show with us. And we're proud, and I think they're proud as well, to be integrated into the Airliners live stream. And it's going to bring you guys as much information as possible. And you guys have just seen it. What's just pinged up, just as we're saying, Emirates A380 out to Dubai. And if we switch across, boom, it's just started pushing back. So a huge shout out and huge thank you to Flight Radar 24.
Live streams are a great example of how aviation can bring people together, and live streamers like the guys here at Airliners Live are doing just that. A huge thanks to Andy and the team for having us on the show. This is Chris Lomas for Flight Radar 24 at Manchester Airport.